Today we go a little bit off the beaten path. On this episode, I open the floor to the panel, and for the next hour or so, we'll go around on a range of video game related topics. It's an open sound off, the first of our free play episodes of this year. I have absolutely no idea what today's panel have in store, and neither do you. What will we give our thoughts and opinions on in this episode? Find out on this free play episode of Downloadable Content. And welcome to Downloadable Content. I'm Brian, and returning for another round are the Wallace brothers, Andy and Ryan.
You know, every time you say that, I think of the Mario brothers for some reason. I don't know why.
Maybe because your mind just goes to weird places like that. Which in his case, it wouldn't surprise me.
You know, didn't we have this discussion about who was Mario and who was Luigi at some point?
Yeah,
I forget that.
Yeah, you did the last time you both were on here. Ron will join us at some point. He is currently MIA. Real life might have happened at the last second. It does happen.
Mm-hmm.
So Ron will jump in whenever. But yes, it is a free play episode. I enjoy doing these free play episodes because I like hearing what anyone else has to say, because it's a nice change of pace. We already did one free play episode. If you are unfamiliar with this type of episode, there is no set topic. It's an open discussion. Anyone on the panel can talk about anything they want, video game related. It's completely open. It's going to be a lot of banter, a lot of back and forth, and hopefully if you have any questions or comments at the end of this, or you want to be in a future episode, you can get a hold of us by facebook.com/downloadablecontent, or on Twitter at dlcontent, or you can email us at dlcontent1@gmail.com. So, now that all that's out of the way, let's dive right in. And I will open up, as I did the first free play episode. I will open up with some news about some various indie games on Kickstarter that I've been keeping track. There are two. One is called Project Phoenix, which is basically a JRPG, but it's also going to be created and developed by some of the video game industry's AAA talent. I first heard about this particular project because it's going to be Nobu Uematsu's first composed score for an indie game.
Wow.
So
very nice.
The guy behind Final Fantasy is getting into indie games.
Who knows? That might just give indie games a huge boost.
I hope so. I mean, indie games are already really gaining in popularity to begin with.
Right. And what I hope, being a PlayStation guy, I'm hoping that... I understand that Xbox has a lot of indie games at the moment, and I've seen a couple on PlayStation. In fact, I own a trial version. I just haven't put down money for the full version. Granted, the game itself is nothing... The concept behind it really isn't anything new. It's just a fighting game. It's got about as minimal of a plot as you can get, but it was actually really fun, the demo of it. It was called Karateka, which is basically it was just another Street Fighter Tekken. You know, same idea. You move through stages. There's a paper thin plot, more or less, but it was highly enjoyable. And I hope we see more indie games for PlayStation.
Well, I mean, I know that PlayStation 4 and now the Xbox One, one of the many, many policy reversals now from Microsoft is that now
Oh God, all those policy reversals.
Oh, jeez.
just before I continue the point, in the most recent issue of Game Informer, the amount of backwards backpedaling that Microsoft has done since E3 has gotten so bad that in the most recent issue of Game Informer, they had to keep track of it all via a flowchart.
Oh wow, it's starting to sound like all the Legend of Zelda timelines now. I keep track of every little flowchart here with every little development with a flowchart.
Well, I mean, now that Microsoft has going to allow indie games on Xbox Live without the need for a publisher.
Ooh, that could be interesting.
Which has been basically Sony's strategy this whole time. I mean, with the PlayStation Network and going on to the PS4, Microsoft now is no longer going to require a publisher. Indie developers can now release games on their own time. They don't have to go through Microsoft anymore for marketing and all that stuff.
In other words, we had the breaking of a new era when Microsoft finally pulls its head out of its ass.
Well, it's still $500, so at this point, who knows? Tomorrow they could bring it down.
Baby steps, baby steps.
Yes.
We already have them backpedaling from other E3 releases, as you mentioned.
Which has been very, very hilarious to watch, quite honestly. But back to Project Phoenix, I was very, very happy to hear that Uematsu is getting into indie games. I mean, he is a freelance composer, so he can do whatever the hell he wants. And the problem with Kickstarter, and this is only a personal one, is that I see all these indie games that are interesting, but I have no money to back them all. It's really a problem. It's like, I want to back you all, and...
And it's like my wallet. The only thing flying out my wallet are moss.
So, just as... I mean, this game is going to be funded. As of this recording, there are 22 days left in the Kickstarter. It started off with as a 30-day campaign. They were asking for $100,000. They have since raised almost $545,000 with 22 days still left.
Wow.
Which means that, as I've heard someone put this based on another Kickstarter project, so what happens when you meet your goal or exceed it? Simple. You do exactly everything that you intended to do with the original amount of money, and that's the first thing you want to do. I don't know if that made sense. I was just thinking about another project which got extremely popular on Kickstarter, and it's a case of, okay, they made a ton of money, so what exactly are they going to do with it all? You meet the goals you first set out to do.
Well, yes. Once you meet the goal, then a lot of them experiment with stretch goals and things like that.
I mean, Kickstarter itself is gaining a huge ton of popularity all over the place.
Project Phoenix, I'm looking to see what it's going to be released on or for.
Oh, also related to Kickstarter getting all these funds. It sounds like Kickstarter is turning into that cue of that meme from Futurama. It's just shut up and take my money. And yeah, they take your money and get huge amounts.
Mm-hmm.
So I've seen... Well, I don't know about that, about one project which I suspect you're going to mention, since I've been seeing a couple updates on Facebook. But so far, for a lot of the Kickstarter stuff, they've met the original amount they've made and also gone way over with the Kickstarter projects.
Alright, Project Phoenix is going to be released on PC. It's going to be released... they're going to try to make the game for iOS and Android. And
Ooh, Android sounds good.
They are currently in negotiations to bring it to the PS4 and the Vita.
That could be interesting.
They have no plans to release it on the Wii, Wii U, 3DS, or the Xbox One. So Nintendo and Microsoft will get the shaft this time around.
I'm sorry, I just find that hysterical.
That doesn't surprise me for some reason, because whenever it comes to Xbox and Nintendo, I've especially noticed this with Nintendo. Nintendo always seems to get the shittier end of a lot of these like projects. I don't know if it's just because Nintendo doesn't appeal like with the way that its consoles run or what. It's just I always see it come back.
No, you have to look at it another way. It's much more simple. It's called Nintendo goes, we don't want no third-party developers.
Let me tweak your statement there. Nintendo wants third-party developers, but third-party developers don't want to develop for the Wii U. There's a difference there.
The whole point is that Nintendo and third parties, for some reason, they just don't get along.
No, they don't. Especially since the Wii and the Wii U and, all that, crap that goes on. But yes, if it comes out for the PS4, that might be a game that I add to the library on my want list for my eventual PS4.
Right. And I will fully admit here that, I don't care what anyone says, Final Fantasy 15 is a must-have, and Watch Dogs was also looking pretty good for when PS4 comes out. I would say something about Killzone, but I've never played any of Killzone, so...
The second Kickstarter game that I'm going to mention before I shift it back to you guys is one that is going to fail miserably.
Yeah, this is the one that I was thinking about, the other one.
Shadow of the Eternals, which is made by a company called Precursor Games. This is a company that rose out of the ashes from the now dead Silicon Knights. It is meant to be a spiritual successor to one of my favorite video games, which is Eternal Darkness: Sanity's Requiem. This company is asking for $750,000.
Good luck with that.
Well, didn't they hit 32 million according to something?
Oh, no. That's a separate topic. I'll explain that in a second. Alright, this is the second attempt by Precursor for this game. This is their second Kickstarter for this game.
For the same game?
Same game.
Oh.
The first time they were asking for $1.5 million. This time they're asking for half of that, $750,000. 4 days left to go. They've only raised $280,000.
As you said, this thing is going to fail miserably, unless some miracle happens.
There could be a miracle in the final 4 days. It could happen. It could very well happen. I mean, you can't rule it out yet. There's still time. I think, though, a lot of the problem is, as much as I would like to see this game, because I love Eternal Darkness and I want there to be some manner of sequel, whether it's a spiritual successor or not, the fact of the matter is that Precursor Games is not getting off on the particularly right foot. This company has risen out of the ashes of Silicon Knights, which has been sued out of existence.
Whoa.
Oh boy, what caused that? Any idea?
Do you remember? Well, I mean, Silicon Knights has known for the Legacy of Kain games.
Right, I haven't played these, but I do know of these games.
They made Eternal Darkness. They did the Metal Gear Solid 1 remake, the Twin Snakes.
Right, I've heard of all these games.
And up until the last couple of games they released before their demise was Two Human and X-Men Destiny.
I can't say I'm familiar with those last two, though.
Well, you're not missing much.
Sounds like it with the way these companies are going.
Two Human was in development hell forever.
Oh, God.
Before they finally made it. And X-Men Destiny. Now, funny story. It was they were using a lot of Epic Games' Unreal Engine to create and code the game.
Right. But
the problem was this. They tried to sue Epic for basically, a fraudulent product.
Oh, no.
And then Epic turned around and looked at X-Men Destiny and went, wait a minute, these bits of code look familiar.
Oh, jeez.
As my brother likes to point out, way back on FWXD, there was a certain post on the opening page, and
Yes, I love this post. Prize for the idiot in the fifth row suing Microsoft.
It was, and then Epic countersued Silicon Knights for copyright infringement. And
is this the part where we get to start doing head desk / face palm / just bash your head against the wall?
More like the Price is Right fail horn might be an accurate sound effect for this sort of thing. And Epic won. They won easily.
Right.
And as a result, the judge demanded Silicon Knights to pay them an exorbitant amount of money and then to take all unsold copies of X-Men Destiny and destroy them.
Oh boy. Wow.
So that basically reached the end. Also, Precursor Games is kind of under a little bit of siege in the gaming community because it is run by the same guy who ran Silicon Knights, Dennis Dyack. Dennis Dyack is basically, now here's a musical reference for those of you who like musicals out there. Dennis Dyack is basically the Max Bialystock of the video game world. Props if you've actually seen the Producers, which is where that reference comes from. He's notorious for promising good quality games and then delivering shit.
Oh, you mean like Duke Nukem Forever?
Duke Nukem Forever was in development hell. I don't know if
I mean, by different people, obviously, but same kind of idea.
And three different studios went bankrupt trying to during Duke Nukem. But yes, the idea is similar. So a lot of people were a little hesitant to donate to a company that has, even though it has a horrible track record to begin with. So as much as I'm looking forward, I'm hoping something like this gets made, they still need 480,000.
Now, could you explain that joke about the 32 million that I saw you posting online or something?
Oh yes, this is from Joshi.
Yep.
Yep.
From I had commented to him. I said I'd never seen a Kickstarter ask for that high of an amount. I've never seen a Kickstarter ask for $750,000. So Joshi sends me a link to a campaign on Indiegogo, which is another Kickstarter-like website. There's a company that is making something called the Ubuntu Edge. I'm guessing that's a Linux-based?
Sounds about right.
It's basically a smartphone and desktop PC in one. Something like that. And they are asking for $32 million.
Oh, okay, wow. Just when we thought that the 750,000 was the defining limit, nope. Somebody comes along and says, 32 million, please.
Here's the impressive part. There's 55 hours left as of this episode, as of this recording. 55 hours left. They've raised over $11.5 million. They're not going to get to the full $32 million that they're asking for. But Jesus Christ, asking... all right. 32 million. All right, thank you, Joshi, for that bit of fun. So, yes, those are two Kickstarters, two indie games that I'm looking at, I'm watching as they progress or fail as they will. So, with that said, I will move on to one of you guys.
You want to go first? I mean, I pretty much all I'm going to do just is give a little review of how far I got in the latest video game I've played. Unless you want to give something in first.
I actually got a few things because there have been a couple games that I've been playing that a couple of them, one of them has impressed me, and the second one, while I'm still working through it, is a decent one. The first one I'm going to go on about, perhaps you've heard of this game. It is called Remember Me. Have you ever heard of that?
I have, yes.
I gotta say, Remember Me was actually a really interesting game to go through because the whole premises of Remember Me is that you're dealing with memories, and the gameplay is actually where you can alter these memories to make certain events happen, and then the memories can also just like they can interfere with certain things. So it is set in this in what is known as Neo Parish 2084, I believe it is the year for it. It starts out with the classic plot, and you're gonna love this. The main character has no memory of who the heck they are or where the heck they are. Sounds
Gee,
familiar?
where have I seen that one? Prototype every other game like that.
Yeah, pretty much. The combat system, I actually really like the combat system. I thought the combat system was gonna kind of fail me because a game that kind of seemed like this was Deus Ex Human Revolution, and I gotta admit, the combat system on that one was not the greatest. And the main difference between being these two is that Deus Ex was more of a first FPS, and this one is definitely more of a melee style. So the way it works for Remember Me is that you have what are called these combo factories where you had the normal square, triangle, X, and circle buttons. But the way that you do the combat system is that you put them into certain like pairings, and by doing these pairings, it actually pulls off a combo for it. So you use that against the enemies. But the coolest part, and I gotta say, I admit I love this part of it, is what's called remixing. What it is when you're going against an enemy, and this is like one of the main targets that you're going for, you literally are able to just shoot like a data beam into a person's memory because they have like a port on the back of their neck, and this allows you to literally go into the memory and find what are called glitches, and by tweaking with these glitches, you can either make certain things happen in a memory or certain things change in a memory.
Hey, wait! I've heard of this concept. It's called the first set of the dot hat games. Sounds so familiar to that, but continue.
Well, what I love more than this though was the actual storyline, and it's a cliche storyline, but it's a freaking awesome storyline. The whole point of this is in Neo Paris, you have what is You have what is called and I don't remember what the main corporation was, but basically you got these
Umbrella Corporation. No,
no way. We're not gonna go into that. You have. I think I can actually look it up and see what the heck it is. Let me double check. It is you are going against. What is it? Crap! I don't remember what the name of the main corporation was, but you're like in a group of like mercenaries, like memory hunters, is what they're called. They hunt for different memories, and the main character Nilan, she's like the main one that can actually remix these memories out of a lot of the memory hunters. So the whole thing, it begins where Nilan has completely been drained of her memories, and she's like in this top security prison and whatnot. And what the corporation is trying to do is they're making these like comatose, like kind of zombie / comatose people by destroying all their memories and like trying to control them and stuff. And as you go through, you learn about like what really happened with it. And it was kind of interesting at the ending. It was.
Oh, you actually beat the game?
Yep. The whole point of the.
Careful, no spoilers. Avoid spoilers if you can.
Yep. The whole point was that it was a man's dream to keep pain out of a world. But as we all know with the world, if there's no pain, well then it's not really a world that humans want to live in.
You know, wouldn't that count as a spoiler right there?
Not too much, because I didn't actually go through too. I don't think it counts too much as a spoiler, because it's just saying the general idea of it.
Incidentally, the corporation in the game Remember Me is called Memorize.
The irony.
And it's made by Capcom, incidentally enough. It is a Windows, a PS3, and a 360 game.
Well, not across all the various platforms, of course.
Well, except Nintendo, so,
Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
But I gotta admit, that was probably one of the better games that Capcom has made in a while, because I played through DMC. I gotta say that was a decent one. The DLC made it was definitely a good add-on to it, but that was definitely a good one that Capcom made, if you ask me.
Just to go on the DMC rant for just 1 minute.
Oh no.
The only problem, you see, here's the thing about DMC, is that it's genre. It's hack and slash. God of War, the original Devil May Cry, all that kind of stuff. all hack and slash. And for being what it was, genre-wise, it fit beautifully. It was just another hack and slash. But, I have no problems with hack and slashers. I love them. The problem is that they decided to call it Devil, small letter M, May Cry. And it would just did not have the spirit of Devil May Cry. So basically they took a hack and slash, made it a good hack and slash from what I understand, but they just gave it the wrong name.
I guess you could argue with it that way. I mean, it tried to have a at least somewhat decent plot to it, but I think it kind of failed a little bit on the plot wise.
I'll have to play it and see which is worse, Devil May Cry 2 or the new one.
Well, of course, I gotta say DMC4 was probably one of the best ones that they ever made.
I've only played and completed the first.
The second one is a case of only if you want to, pardon the expression here, just to play it and drag your dick through glass.
Oh, so Xenosaga Episode 2.
Quite possibly. I haven't played any of the Xenosaga. I should.
Or Resident Evil 6.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna go there.
That one, I think, and sad part is that was like, I didn't even complete that one with the way it was going, and the sad part is that was the first one, so I'm definitely gonna have to look at the other Resident Evils.
Yes,
for that.
yes, please. Now that you've had a little bit of Resident Evil 6, that's bottom. It can only go up from there.
Yeah.
Not true. There are a couple other Resident Evils out there that are terrible, but they're not. I don't think they're off the main storyline. I have one that was, I think it was either for PlayStation 2 or 3, and it was this Resident Evil that I've never heard of. I can't even tell you the name at this point, but I do know that it has to be pretty bad. It might still be sitting on my shelf at the moment. I don't even know.
If it's
so it's possible.
If it's for PS3, it might be Operation Raccoon City, which is an offshoot. I haven't really touched the offshoot games. I've stuck really only to the main story games, which would be 0, 1, 2, 3, Code Veronica, 4, and 5.
Right, I'm seeing if I can figure out exactly which Resident Evil is. I know it's not a numbered one, so it's definitely an offshoot, but let's see if I can figure out if I can remember precisely which. I want to say it's more of a PlayStation 2 than it was a PlayStation 3, but let's see here if I can find
PlayStation 2,
anything.
that'd be Outbreak.
Outbreak, that might have been it.
Outbreak. Outbreak. Okay, here was the problem with Outbreak, and I do not suggest anybody play this game. Outbreak, the thing was, that was one of the earliest attempts by Capcom to get into online gaming. Outbreak is meant to be played online, because if you play it as a single player, your AI companions suck.
Oh boy.
You will die more times because of shitty AI than your own ineptitude.
Wow.
You'll be sitting there shooting, you'll be surrounded in zombies, and your AI partner will just be like, "Oh yeah, just let me know when you need help."
Oh my! Oh, god damn it!
Just like, all right, oh, you're being attacked. All right, I'll.
Oh, all right, yeah, okay.
So, 6. I beat it. I played it. I completed all of it, just because I could say I could, and then promptly sold it.
Oh yeah.
And I hope you beat it as fast as you could, so you can still get a decent price for it from someplace. Within the first month or so, when the sellback price is still kind of reasonable, because nobody's realized how shitty of a game it was.
Yeah. So basically, I suggest that if you're going to continue on to the Resident Evil series, now that you've played one of the worst games, it can only go up from there. I mean, obviously, in terms of story, you're going to want to start with 0. And
who cares about story?
Who cares? Hey, there's a Ron. How about that?
I'm sorry about that.
Real life happened.
Yeah, real life happened, and then food, glorious, glorious food.
Yeah, food. Yes. So, all right, we've got a Ron. But yes, obviously, I think all of the games are pretty much available on the various online networks now. I mean, if you still own a GameCube, you can get Resident Evil Zero.
And yeah, I did a quick confirmation. It was Resident Evil Outbreak.
Yeah,
and that's a game that I don't think the case has even been opened yet.
Well, good. Don't open it. Because I could not. I was looking forward. The premise is good. I mean, you're playing the setting of Outbreak is you are playing as an average citizen when the T-virus goes nuts in Raccoon City. And I was like, all right, that sounds good. I mean, you've already played Resident Evil 2 and 3, which you're playing through as Leon and Claire and Jill. You're playing through, the police officers while Raccoon City's falling to shit. Now you get to play as, your everyday citizen, and I'm just like, oh, this could be an interesting concept, but it was clearly meant to be played online. Because all Capcom did was basically take that online campaign and modify it for single player, and it sucks.
Figures.
This is back in Capcom's really early days of dabbling with AI, and it shows. I think I beat the first level, tried to get through the second, and after that I was just like, no, I can't do it. I can't do it. I keep dying so many times from ineptitude. Horrible AI.
Oh yeah.
Wow, it's like just imagine Kingdom Hearts with horrible AI. Ugh. Well, actually, that wouldn't be too bad, possibly.
So, Ron, just to get you up to speed, I've talked about a couple of games that I'm watching on Kickstarter.
Okay.
Ryan is going on about. He was talking about the game Remember Me.
Okay.
And he was going to talk about another game.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were going to switch it to Andy or you.
Okay.
Alright, so the other one that I'm going to go through, and I know people are going to start shooting me when I say this, the Final Fantasy 13 part.
Let me just jump on.
Okay, all right, wait, before we progress any further with that, I do have the power to expel you from this chat.
Yeah, I know.
You just uttered an unutterable word.
No, let's be fair. That Final Fantasy 13 can't be that bad when we compare it to things like Resident Evil 6, Outbreak, and Devil May Cry 2. So we gotta give it that much.
All right, we'll let Ryan plead his case. So. Go.
Alright, so...
Time's up. No.
Yes, screw you.
Okay, no, go on.
Okay, I know what everybody's complaining about with it. The plotline sucked. Okay, I gotta agree with that. The plotline did suck, but only to a certain point for me.
Wait, what? Only to a certain point?
Let him continue before you castrate him.
The reason why I'm saying this is because since I've beaten both 13 and 13-2...
Holy crap!
And I do plan on playing Lightning Returns.
Alright, keep going.
The reason why I thought that the plotline... They were trying to make an attempt with the plotline, I should say, because there is another one that actually kind of is a I'm not sure which one it is, but there's one that is a prequel to really the Fabula Nova Crystallis, like with the 13. I believe that is Final Fantasy... I'm not sure. It's one of the ones that I played for. I think it was one of the ones that I played for the GB, for the DS. I forget which one it was. It was actually one that back when we had Fantasy World XD, and I got like third place for one of the character matching contest that I was able to get. It was kind of like a prequel. To
You're welcome.
Yes, remember he's.
yeah, it was like a prequel to that one, and the reason why I gotta say that the plotline didn't fully suck is because what they were actually trying to get at with it, to me it felt like they were trying to get at to the point where you're trying to, even though it's kind of like what's the old Greek mythology? I know it's Greek mythology, where you're trying to battle against a fate that, even though it's probably gonna try and
destroy. The Oracle.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's playing along that kind of line, and that's why I kind of like it. It's because you're trying to battle against the fate that was bestowed upon you, and you're trying everything, even though that you know the gods are gonna try and screw you in the process. And I gotta say that the final battle really showed that, and the ending to that. 13-2 was kind of like a little bit of a downswing on it in that case, because you're introducing Noel and Sarah in this case, and you're really taking over. But I actually like the fact that they brought Sarah into it, because it really kind of shows how the connection between Lightning and the others goes. And we all know that that Lightning Returns is going to be based solely on Lightning. So I think that's what they were trying to lead up into, because in the first Final Fantasy 13, they were focusing on a lot of the characters. But then as I read the reviews, the game developers were saying, but wait, why don't we try going further into Lightning's character and stuff like that? And I think that's what 13-2 was trying to do with us, because they were first in 13 you were introduced into the whole cast. In 13-2, because it was Noel and Sarah. With Sarah, that's kind of like I think sort of like a bridge into Lightning Returns. And what I did end up liking about 13-2, even though I know that the plot was kind of crap at the end, what I did like about it though was how it explained of different things. With 13-2, what I did like about it though was exploring the backstory behind Noel and like how he came to be and stuff like that. I admit I did like that backstory with it. The only problem is that what they did with Sarah, and I hated that. But I know my expectations shouldn't be too high for Lightning Returns, but you know, between the graphics and stuff, I know everybody says if it's not a good plot line, then it's not really good. But admittedly, I like the graphics and the music score with it for a lot. So that's my case for 13. And I know everybody's going to be saying, but we all know, but it's the plot. But, well, sometimes I like the graphics and the music scores with it besides the plot. So that's my case for it.
Alrighty, well, that's fair. I mean, I have 13-2. I haven't started it yet.
Well, except that he missed the parts. He said, okay, screw the plot. Well, guess what? It's not just the plot. There's a whole bunch of other things that were wrong with 13 and 13-2. For instance, this is a small rant, not large one. Number one, Sony and Squeenix in general went for, instead of doing plot, they went for, ooh, pretty graphics. We got a whole new machine. Let's take advantage of its graphics capability.
Believe me, I've beaten that issue ad nauseum.
Right, but here's the other thing.
Have you listened to the rest of downloadable content? I've beaten that.
Right, but that's just the first. There's more to it, though.
Poor Ron has had to hear me suffering and whining over it.
The second issue is that, alright, let's look at some of your hack and slashes, which have a plot, but you know it could be better. But you know why they don't suck? It's because of the way the combat system is. In 13, I understand that the combat system was either 13 or 13-2. The plot system was shit, and you also you were on a train track. You could not play around in a sandbox. You were on a linear progression. That was the other big thing. In some of these other games, you can have a little bit of freedom in regard to what your actions do. In 13, I know that with 13-2, they fixed the bugs that were in 13, but they added a whole slew of new problems to make 13-2 suck.
I wouldn't necessarily say. Well, then again, with these, since I've only played 7, 10, 10-2, and 13 is, and I have actually played 6 for the GBA. Since 13 and 13-2 are like the two newest ones that I've played, I guess in a sense that, well, I haven't played 11 or 12, so that's probably one of the other reasons why I'm not fully into that whole thing. But the one thing that they did add in 13-2 was they added in, and I know people are gonna say that still didn't make it any good, is the time warp stuff, like with the time gates and stuff. I think that, I know everybody's gonna say that's linear, but I think it's linear, but at the same time you can also like affect it by other certain events, because I know that there are certain worlds for that.
Well, again, I have not played 13.2, so I will render judgment on it. Because knowing me, I will probably eventually get 13.3, but as my semester comes, it will mean no video games for me until December. Because that's how it'll work. Alright, well, we got a few minutes of time left before I close out the first half. Ron or Andy, I will let you close it out.
Alright, so the latest game that I've played is JRPG. I'm sure many have heard of it. Ni no Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch.
I want this game. I have not played it.
Alright, now I will admit I was borrowing this from a friend, so I definitely did not complete the game. In fact, this isn't too spoilery because you find out. Anyways, basically, as in all standard JRPGs, you gotta build up your party, and this one takes a different approach to building up your party. And I got up as far as getting the second human character who joins your party. And what I've played of Ni no Kuni so far, it is a very, very fun game. Granted, it's huge like any other JRPG. I had the guidebook with it too, and just looking through it, yeah, big game. But then again, that's something to be expected from a JRPG. And the basic premise is this: is that first and foremost, the way it starts out, I had a small complaint with because it's like 20 minutes to half an hour, and the most you can do is just move a character around. But they go through this whole intro and setting up this whole... It's a good grounding for why the beginning stuff happens. And essentially the plot is this. You play as Oliver, who comes, I think it's like maybe a 1950s, somewhere like between the 1950s, 1970s setting in this town called Motorville. And some stuff happens. I'm not going to spoil what happens. There's a very sad moment. They remember, Studio Ghibli is the Disney of Japan, and they've borrowed some Disney plot, and a certain thing happens, and in order to resolve this certain thing, you end up going to another world. And in this other world, you have a big baddie by the name of Shadar called the Dark Djinn, and what he's done is this power that anyone who's resisted him or can use magic, he's sort of like broken their hearts, like taking a human trait and just taking it completely out of them, changing the person entirely. And it's your job to go and restore these broken-hearted people, and in the process, gaining power so that you can go and eventually defeat the Dark Djinn and accomplish the other goal that you were originally sent to this world for. And again, very fun game, but here's the weird thing. The character type you're cast as is a wizard. And yes, you can do spells, but they're doing another archetype of wizards that I don't see very often. It's definitely there. Essentially, you have control of familiars. And at the beginning of each battle, you had the option to either play as Oliver or to have Oliver send out one of his familiars. And I just find that a small chuckle there, because you're controlling a guy who's controlling yet another guy. So controlception or something along those lines. And that's just a small little thing that I can think of. I'm also wondering why just today I realized that I didn't add in the theme song for this game is What Becomes of the Broken Hearted, but I'll stay off of that thing. Also, another big thing about this game is all the puns. There are literally, you cannot go anywhere in this game without running into a pun. So far my favorite one, it's a tiny spoiler. The first bosses you fight is this big mouse called King Hickory, and King Hickory Dock, and the guy who was one of your allies who was fighting against him before you go and join the fray gets knocked out, and as he gets knocked out, he says, "The crook struck one." And that's just one example of the countless puns in this game. And again, I did not get very far in this game, but there's tons of side quests to do, typical JRPG, and it's definitely a highly recommended thing. The only gripe I have against it at the moment, and this is just because of tradition, this is sort of spoilery-ish, but it's nothing major, at least in my personal opinion. You know how the classic RPGs have a case of, you had that one hidden side boss that you fight, and once you beat him, it makes the final boss be a piece of cake? Nino Kuni, they didn't do that. Instead, what you do is after you clear the main story, apparently, again, I was looking ahead in the book to find out this, is that then you get to unlock the really hard stuff. So maybe somebody out there was thinking, we've made these final bosses too easy after they beat the secret boss. Tell you what, we'll do the final mystery boss, and then if you want to beat the secret boss, you get to do that after that, but you just don't get to go and just plow over the final boss after beating the secret hidden boss. But otherwise, so far, it's been a very enjoyable game. I'm going to at some point go and buy my own copy when I get a few more dollars.
Well, good. I mean, it's a game that I certainly want to play. I mean, I knew that it was developed by both Studio Ghibli and Level 5.
Yes, a good game by Level 5. The last one of theirs I played was a complete disaster, or at least I didn't even beat one of the bosses, which was Rogue Galaxy. Again, one of Level 5's flops. It's still on my backlog, a case of I'll get to it at some point.
Here you go. Alrighty, so any final little quick thoughts before I close out the first half? I know Ron just came in, so I will have him open the second half with whatever thoughts he will have. Well, good. In that case, I see your silence. All right.
How do you see silence?
The same way you see dead people. You're a photographer. I know these things. All right. On our second half, we'll continue the open sound off, open chat. Anything goes here. So we'll cut out for a few minutes. You guys will have some music. We'll be back. Welcome back to this second half of our second free play episode of downloadable content. We're all still here. Ron and the brothers Wallace are still here. They haven't gone anywhere.
We're floating in the internet somewhere.
Yep. Where did he go? He's up there in a million pieces.
Going through some large network server or something.
It's Wonka Vision. You'll come back out and you'll look like a Wonka bar.
Oh God, no!
It
Chocolate.
should be delicious.
Yes.
You
You like chocolate? Anyway, we are going to get right back into the open discussion. And since Ron showed up a little late to the party, I think it's only fair that we let him have the first crack at the second half. So, Ron, take it away.
All right, I'm going to start off with something that probably people are a fair bit surprised at. I'm going to start with Final Fantasy XIV: A Realm Reborn, which, for those who are unaware, is the essential. It's essentially the reboot of Final Fantasy XIV.
Because the first one went down in flames because they released it way too quickly.
Yeah, the first, like, for those who are unaware too, like, I will back up briefly and just explain from the very beginnings. Final Fantasy XIV was originally an MMO in 2011, I believe. I'm going to double check Lord Wikipedia for that. But to be quite honest, the game came out a year or two too early, and the developers even said so as much as like, this game isn't ready. And the board members went, and too bad, released it anyway. And they did, and then everybody got fired. So they redid. Final Fantasy XIV has had a bit of a community still, surprisingly. And so Final Fantasy XIV has a small bit of a community, and they did have a small but very dedicated community with it, and they would eventually get more releases and more updates as the thing went on. But it eventually got to the point where the game, like all these releases and updates, were going to turn the game into something entirely different, because while they were still doing all these releases and updates, they were still working on the main core game itself. And eventually they got to the point and said, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to do a world-ending event. Literally, they ended the servers and ended the game like around November of last year, and said that we're going to end the game, but if you are still subscribed to the game, you can get into the reimagining and redoing of it next year when the quote unquote proper version gets released. And this proper version is called A Realm Reborn. Just basically might as well be Final Fantasy XIV 2.0.
That's essentially what it was. Just to clarify your point, Ron, the initial release was September 2010.
Yeah. And it went on until November 2012. So I'm going to look here right now. It was November 11th, 2012.
Yep.
And there were certain things in the game that it did not have at the start. Like one of them was like a auction house system. Like this is something that if you're an MMO player, you expect certain things. You expect the Holy Trinity of tank, DPS, healer. You expect an auction system, and you expect there to be lots of flaming. Well, there was lots of flaming, and there was kind of sort of the Holy Trinity, but no auction house, and a lot of other issues that they eventually just said okay, we're done with this. We're just going to restart it over with all these things that should have been in the game in the first place.
So does it start out as a post-apocalyptic world, since that seems like it would be the logical choice?
The explanation, I'm going straight up spoiler alert right here. If you're curious about the story, here is what happened. At the end of Final Fantasy XIV, there is a war a gigantic battle that takes place, where it is the city-states of Eorzea, which is the continent that you're on, the three major city-states up against the Guardian Empire. Cough, cough, where does that sound familiar? And this entire time while this is happening, the second moon, there's 2 moons on this planet, and the second moon has been getting increasingly larger. Well, the second moon does a Majora's Mask impersonation, bursts open, and surprise, it's Bahamut, and he proceeds to Mega Flare the entire battlefield.
Well, that pretty much ends any sort of rebuilding after that. I mean, just
Yeah.
just this game, just to give you guys a sense of how rushed this game was. We had mentioned that the original Final Fantasy XIV came out in September of 2010. Final Fantasy XIII had only come out in March 2010.
Right, I remember that, seeing things in the case of 13 is out, and then a few months later, wait, what? There's already a Final Fantasy 14? The hell?
I think it took a lot of people by surprise.
Yeah, and it was very surprising. Now, the story explanation is that in A Realm Reborn, what ended up happening is one of the leaders of the city-states in Final Fantasy 13, he was essentially like a Pope-esque figure, Louis or something, Louisoix. You try and pronounce that how you wish. He basically did a gigantic mass protect teleport spell on a lot of the adventurers, which is what the player characters are, and a lot of the major players in the politics of that world, and basically teleported them forward several minutes in time to basically survive the mega flare from Bahamut.
Well, it works. Or
Yeah.
as Annette would put it, sounds legit.
Yeah. Now that there is still a lot of rebuilding, like the world is the A Realm Reborn takes place 5 years after this battle has occurred, and Bahamut wiped out basically like a large section of the Garlean Empire's army, and the city-states have been recovering and trying to rebuild their cities and stuff as time has gone, as over these past 5 years, and just now, basically, as like the Garlean Empire is showing up again and stirring up trouble, is when the game is beginning and the story takes place.
So, obviously, this game is in... I mean, this game has been in beta.
Yes, it is in beta. They just got done with their last open beta. As of this recording, this is like as of this weekend. Like this previous weekend, they just got done with their last open beta.
Okay.
Early access begins this Friday, and the game launches on the 27th.
Hopefully this time it'll actually be up to snuff this time, and we can actually and it'll actually be decent.
So Ron, you've played it. So
yes,
what are
I
your
did
thoughts?
play the open beta. Okay, so some of the first things I had. It's a Final Fantasy game. The game is very beautiful. Let's just get that out of the way. The game looks very nice. I have a decently good PC, and it was playing on the medium-high setting, and the game looks pretty darn good. The music also is very well done. I really like the music in this game. The original game had music by Nobuo Uematsu, or had some music by Nobuo Uematsu, and the new composers are still Nobuo Uematsu, Masayoshi Soken, and Naoshi Mizuta. The score is always pretty good too. The gameplay is similar to what Final Fantasy XIV had, which I kind of like, was that you only need one character in that game, and you can play any class. And I do like that like sort of job system, essentially. If you want to be a person that uses a lance and wears heavy armor, you can do that. You can be a dragoon, essentially. But if you want to, you can then change your weapon to a book, and then you can turn into a black mage, or in this game it's called a arcanist. I'm sorry, thaumaturge, and you use blizzard and fire and light and thunder and attack the enemy that way from a distance.
So in other words, you're not restricted to just being one class then?
Correct. You start off as one class, and then after level 10, you unlock the ability to become the other classes. But level 10 is pretty easy to get in the game itself.
I'm starting to like the sound of Final Fantasy 14.2.
Yeah. I mean, this was something that was in 14.1.0, but they carried it over through 2.0, which I liked because I thought that was a really good system that they had.
Oh, yeah.
You have your choice of customization options for the races. You can be human, Lalafell, which is a little short little midget people. You have some like more Beastmen-esque characters. I forget the actual name of the race. It is the Rogadin. They're like larger Beastmen type people. You have Elizin, which are elves essentially, and the Mikote, which are cat people. So you have your options of customization and stuff like that. I guess probably the thing I like the most about this as I was playing it was like, I'm playing this game. There's a story here. The game feels like a Final Fantasy game. I can't really say I've had that feeling since 12.
Well, there's of course only one series of games that has been between 12 and 14, and we've already gone off on that tangent.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like eventually you can become like the system they have in place is that if, say, for example, you get to be like a level 30 Lancer and a level 15 Conjurer, well, you can... No, it's Marauder, I'm sorry, 15 Marauder. Lancer uses a lance, Marauder uses axes and hammers. You can essentially combine those classes and become a Dragoon, which is going to be some dude that wears like a lot of heavy armor but has a lot of like taunting ability and stuff like that, and all these other classes will mix and match as such. And you can, and as you learn abilities in the classes, you can then have some of them apply to the other class. So when I was leveling, I was playing an archer, but then I also leveled up my conjurer, which is like your cures and your protect and stuff like that. Well, with my archer, I could have the archer also learn cure and protect and be able to heal himself if he ever got caught in a pinch.
Now, did you ever play Final Fantasy 11, the other MMO for the series?
I did not play Final Fantasy 11. I did see a fair bit of it and read up on a fair bit of it. I can say that from what I remember reading and seeing, you can solo things a lot easier in this game. And you can solo a lot of things in 14 compared to 11. I know that was one of the big negatives against 11 was that after a certain point you really couldn't solo a lot of the enemies, at least not effectively.
Right, because I was going to ask, because with 14 1.0 going in Burning in Flames, and 11 having still been very successful at the time, I just was thinking, would you be able to say if 14 2.0 might enjoy the same success that 11 had?
I mean, from what I played and what I think the game was going to be, I do think it could have a fair bit of success as 11 did. Now again, the beta only had you go to level 20, so I can't really comment on how the end game content is, and that's always one of the big sticking points with the MMOs is, okay, your early game is pretty good, but what is your end game content going to be? Like, is it going to be PvP? Is it going to be PvE? Is there going to be like something for people to do at the end game level when they get to with like their top-notch gear and stuff like that, especially when you only needing one character to learn all the classes, like that you kind of need to have something at the end that's really going to make people want to keep playing.
Right, and I mean, I don't play MMOs very much, but it always seems to me that MMOs can have a certain plot, but then what you do after, because, you know, for the overall part, my impression of MMOs is that you have a free world, and that you pretty much do anything within the game system that allow you to, whatever the game system allows you to. So you beat one big baddie. So what's next? Does it go? Oh wait, there's another big baddie, or I mean, that's my general impression of MMOs, that they have no end.
Yeah, I mean,
by default, they wouldn't have an end.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is like an issue that like any MMO has to come up with. Is how do you keep the people that play your game, keep them entertained at the end, when they eventually get to that max level? And I don't know. I don't know how Square Enix is going to do it with this one, but the game seems interesting. The fact that there's also another benefit too is that this game is being released on the PC and PlayStation 3 and then when PlayStation 4 comes out, it'll be on the PlayStation 4, and you can play with people on PS3 and PS4, and vice versa.
Oh, that'll be nice.
Oh, so this is gonna be sort of excluding. Basically, it's gonna be more like exclusive, at least to a brand, because I mean, obviously you can have it for both PS3 and PS4 and PC, but it sounds like Microsoft is not getting its hands on it. And well, do I need to say anything about Nintendo?
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, like this
Nintendo
is
is still trying to figure out what an online system is.
yeah. Like I mean, this is something that was with Final Fantasy 11, where it was on the PS2 and eventually the PS3 and PC. So this is not something that's surprising or new, but the fact that you could play with someone on the PS3 or the PS4 and vice versa, like that's very nice. And
Right.
from what we're seeing of people who are in chat on my server, at least, like the people who are playing on the PS3, like they were pretty happy with it. Like the only thing they really couldn't do was type in roll chat, and that's easily remedied with just getting a USB keyboard and using that, because they were basically, otherwise they were just playing with the PS3 gamepad, and that was it.
Right. But you know, now it sounds like Final Fantasy 14 might be a game I'll have to pick up.
Yeah.
Is there a subscription fee?
Yes, there is a monthly subscription fee.
Figures.
Yeah, I mean, this is how Square
Oh
Enix
please!
money
Do you think
back.
did you think this was going to be for free? Although I think the ones and maybe Ron, you can check this. The ones who stuck around from the original, do those get a greatly reduced or free membership as part of?
What they got, if you were originally on Final Fantasy 14 1.0 and you were with them long enough, you eventually get what is called legacy status. And basically what that means is your character that was from Final Fantasy 14 1.0 got transferred to Final Fantasy 14 2.0. So, say for example, you were in Final Fantasy 14 1.0 and you had like a level 50 character and your gear and stuff like that. Well, you didn't lose that. You just got transferred over to 2.0, and they gave you a 2.0 equivalent essentially.
Okay.
They do get 2 weeks extra free. I know that for certain. Like they get they get early access. They were available to play in all the open betas that they had. They get a month free, but they also get an extra 2 weeks free before they can decide whether they want to stick around with it or not. And also for those who are wondering, if you were on Legacy and you're worried about people that are going to be doing endgame content already, they're going to be doing it on their own separate servers, like Japan. Like if you, in the world selection, when I went to look through it, like there was a bunch of server selections, but some of them were like NA Legacy or EU Legacy or JP Legacy, signifying that these were servers meant for people who had played Final Fantasy 14 1.0 and are carrying over to 2.0.
Well, good. So, all indications so far seems to be that Square really took the time to fix a lot of the issues from the original game,
Yeah.
and hopefully this will, it'll gain some people back and get Square back into people's good books. I mean, Final Fantasy 11, for fuck's sake, is still going.
Yeah, they had their last update like October last year, I think.
It's still going. I mean, it came out, in Japan in 2002. It's still going.
Yeah.
So it's proof that Square Enix can make a Final Fantasy game. It just seems to be that they just haven't been good at it recently. Although 14 might change that.
Yeah, and probably like the last thing that I just want to say is like, I looked just as curious to see what the price was. You can buy the base version of Final Fantasy 14, The Realm Reborn, for $30. So, I mean, not many people can say that about an MMO, where you can buy like the base version with 1 month free to try it out and be like, how does this feel? Are you going to enjoy yourself playing this?
Right. Any idea what the subscription fee will be per month after that, or no idea?
What I read was that there is going to be a monthly subscription fee. Some of it's like your normal like $14 for 1 month, or you could pay upfront an additional price to have it be reduced essentially per month. Like the list I read was if you paid whatever $13 a month times 6, so $78 plus taxes, then you would get 6 months of gameplay for free, or 6 months of gameplay essentially. You'd be subscribed for 6 months, and you'd have 8 characters per server for a maximum of 40 characters total. And I know, like, for the base version, it's one character limit per server with a maximum of 8 characters total per account. And that was like their quote unquote entry fee, which was $13 a month.
Yeah, I'm looking at the list now. It's if you were a legacy, you do get a reduced subscription fee. It's $9.99. Entry fee is $12.99. Standard for 1 month is $14.99. 90 days is $13.99, and for 180 days, 6 months, $12.99. So.
And that was only for Legacy, right?
No, Legacy is if you have a Legacy membership, it's $9.99.
Okay.
So
yeah, it sounds like pretty reasonable.
Yeah, I mean it's reasonable prices, and they are being generous, in my opinion, to the Legacy people. Like the fact that you're able to keep all the work you did on the 1.0. Like I can't think of any other developer or publisher that had done that for their MMO when they updated 2.0.
Very good. Alrighty, unless you have anything else to say on the subject, we'll switch back to the Wallace brothers.
Let's see here. At this point, the only other thing I was gonna talk about is the only other game that I've really played in quite a while. I haven't been doing too much gaming recently. Is on THQ and the Darksiders series. And well, okay, I guess we'll go ahead here. THQ, the Darksiders series, Darksiders 1 and 2, I believe Darksiders 2 was probably their last game, because THQ and Visual Games are both dead and buried, which is rather sad, since I love the Darksiders series. And what I love about the Darksiders series is that, first, is that they take RPG. It's similar to Kingdom Hearts and a couple hours hack and slash games, in that you have the hack and slash elements, since it's essentially single player. You have no other party members, but at the same time, it's an RPG style, and both these games are huge. You got your leveling up, and I've just enjoyed both of them, and it's very sad to see that THQ sold off and nobody bought them up. And while I'm in Darksiders 2 at the immediate moment, just to give a general idea, this isn't too spoilery because these are essentially the summaries of the games. In the first Darksiders, you have these 7 mythical seals, and all 7 were broken, causing the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse to be unleashed upon the world, and the world completely destroyed. In the first game, you play as War, and essentially you're trying to go and figure out, well, you've been cast out essentially and are trying to redeem your name and trying to figure out what the heck happened. In the second game, you play as Death, and he's trying to clear his brother War's name because he knows that War couldn't have done it. And I have not gotten far enough in Darksiders 2 to see whether or not he accomplished his goal, but you do find out what happened, why the 7th seal got broken by the end of the first Darksiders. And they're both rated M's, but I highly recommend both games. Very, very hack and slash, very RPG elements in there as well. The visuals are, especially in Darksiders 2, the visuals are beautiful. I think they took a cue from God of War 3 to make it like that. And it's been a while since I played these, so I can't give a fresh, off the top of my head review. Darksiders, the first one, again, there's a lot to do. You got lots of very tough bosses. I had difficulty even on easy mode, so that should give you an idea. I mean, I won't say I'm the most hardcore of all gamers, but that should give you an idea of just how tough this game can be. Darksiders 2, I don't believe they actually gave you an option for what setting you start out as. You just start out as normal mode. I will admit, The bosses actually haven't killed me all that often. I think they were taking in this case, they might have been taking a small cue from the old N64 days, where yes, the bosses were bad, but the environment was out to kill you. And I have died more times in the environment than I have against bosses. And sometimes the controllers get a little knacky, but it's been a very enjoyable game so far. And I'm almost going to start talking about my other backlist here. I still got to beat the Prince of Persia games, but my backlist is just huge with so many things. But yeah, Darksiders, if you can play the series, get around to playing it. I think it'll be worth the investment at this point.
I was very glad. That was one thing I managed to get most of the way through this summer was my various backlog of video games. That there are only a couple of games that I couldn't make it to. I mean, I started The Last Story, and I realized I'm going to have to definitely buy some component cable for my Wii, because playing a Wii game on an HD TV sucks.
I've heard of that.
Damn it.
So I have no problem with it kind of looking like it has PS2 quality graphics, but oh my god, I need component cable. I do. So now that he has talked about that, let us move to Ryan.
One other game that I haven't worked on it, and actually I can go off on two games, but the first one I'll go off on, and I still have not beaten this one yet, even though I've been telling myself to get my butt into it. BioShock Infinite.
Great game.
It is. I mean, the combat system it's a little bit different than the first two BioShocks, but it is an awesome game from what I have.
And then you get to the ending, but I'm not going to spoil the ending.
Yeah, I have.
You're already cutting to the end. Let him talk.
Yes, please. I haven't actually gotten that far yet, because right now where I am is a pain in the neck, because I don't have like certain I don't have enough for like doing what I guess with the plasmids and the original ones. I don't have enough of those, so it's kind of a tricky spot. Yeah, the Vigors and Nostrums, I believe is what they are called. But I gotta say, just having Elizabeth by your side and just giving you stuff, that is such great perks for that, because when you're in the middle of combat, you got all the enemies and they're firing all on you. It's like when Elizabeth tossed stuff, you're like, thank you, I need this so much.
Oh, thank you for giving me that much needed life.
And the much needed ammo.
Not like Resident Evil 4, where you're playing as Leon and you finally got Ashley, and all she does is just kind of stand around and whine.
Oh, Ashley can go die in a fire. I love the fact that at the beginning of you don't get Elizabeth right away, but when you do, the game tells you, don't worry about Elizabeth.
Yes.
She can protect herself.
She can hold her own, and I'm just like, oh, thank you, because I knew if Elizabeth, you'd have to take care of Elizabeth. I knew I'd hit game over so many times.
Oh yes, I know. And
it's a first-person shooter. I mean, I'm like, thank God she doesn't get hit by friendly fire.
Yeah, and I mean, I love it in this case. What you couldn't do in the first two BioShocks is actually how you can combo the Vigors. I love how you can do that in BioShock Infinite.
You can do that in 2. You can do that in 2.
What I love, especially one of my favorite ones, is to use Shock Jockey. Is like how the lightning was, and then Feast of Crows. Oh, that is a fun one to use.
I love how Irrational Games still kept like an animal type vigor in this case, because I mean in the first two BioShocks you had the bees plasmid.
That was one of my favorite.
Which always, anytime I use that, I'd always quote Eddie Izzard. Covenant bees, I'm Covenant bees.
Yeah, I love that about it, and another thing that I really enjoyed about it is, and this is just because of how you can use it, the rail line system. That is a freaking awesome thing to use.
It is. It makes everything so fast paced, and how you can do like an instant kill type attack by leaping off of it and skewering somebody. It's great.
Oh yeah, that is one of the fun things. And I gotta admit, one of the enemies in there is a pain in the neck to go against, but it's just an awesome. Well, actually, I should say two of them. the siren, the ghost siren. That one is an interesting character to go against. I'll tell you that.
I always hated the handymen.
Ah, those things are a pain in the
The
ass.
handymen, which are basically the equivalent of big daddies.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And
Well, to be fair, as you get farther through the game in the first one, the big daddies got a little easier to kill.
Yeah,
A
but
little.
have you played against a handyman? Against a handyman, like I for my playthrough of Bioshock Infinite, I was like, I put a fair bit of my money into shotguns and rifles. So I'm thinking, okay, well, if they're far away, I'm gonna headshot them. And if they get close, I'm just gonna pump them full of lead.
doesn't work very well.
It doesn't work very well for a handyman because you're doing almost no damage with a rifle, and if they get close and they're pounding you in the face, and your shotgun, for all the damage it can do, they've got they're I mean, handymen are a little more than damage sponges. Let's call them for what they are.
Yeah, and the other one that I royally hate, not because of you had to go against it, but because of it's a freaking going against multitudes, the Boy of Silence. I hate that one so much. I've been caught by it once, and that's all I want to get caught by, because when you're going against a multitude of enemies in that one, it's just like, I can't kill these things easily. I'm running out
Zig Rush! I mean Swarm!
Yeah,
But again, the Boys of Silence are definitely an annoying one, but that's just more so like that's like more so the game punishing you for being an idiot and getting caught in the first place.
yeah, pretty much in that case. But I mean, I love the game. It's definitely an awesome BioShock gameplay. The figures were a little bit different, like and stuff, but that, and I think the rail line system was really good. And the other one, which also is kind of like reminds me in a sense of, well, yeah, in a sense, it kind of reminds me of BioShock, but it's more Assassin's Creed than that. Dishonored. That is actually a really good game. Granted, in my case, I keep on getting killed and stuff more than often than not because of like some of the way the mechanics work for the gameplay. But once you actually get used to it and you figure out the way that you want to do stuff for it, it is a really good game to play, and especially with like the storyline too for it.
I love some of the little subtle things they buried in the background of the game. For example, I mean, obviously, we have the plot point of the tears.
Yep.
And if you take the time to listen to what's going on in the background, you can hear the themes for Everybody Wants to Rule the World.
Mm-hmm.
Girls Just Want to Have Fun.
Oh, yeah.
Just little subtleties hidden in the background with the music.
Well, it means that the people, the characters who came up with the idea of tears went into the future, took that music, and brought it back to.
There's also the little Easter egg that explains where Vigors came from. There's also, eventually when you beat the game, you figure out what the tears are exactly.
Yep.
You know, I fully confess, I fully spoiled myself on the ending. I'm not going to spoil it here, but
Oh no,
the
you better
ending, the ending is just a case of, wow, just holy shit, wow.
Yeah, I had to play the end of the game twice to fully realize, because I mean the ending does come at you very quickly.
Yeah, the ending happens very quickly, and it throws a lot of stuff at you at once.
And so that's why I had to play it twice, because the first time I was like, what the hell? And then I played it, you know, I had a save point near the end, like, okay, this makes more sense. So a lot of the subtleties, I mean, I think this is going to get Game of the Year.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But, you know, just from a story perspective, I mean, if you've played the first two Bioshocks, just the huge difference in personality between Andrew Ryan and Zachary Comstock.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you have Zachary Comstock, who is the ultimate religious zealot, and you have Andrew Ryan, the ultimate capitalist. It's... You know, I knew I was going to be in for a good game when, you know, right at the beginning, you see them, you know, praying to Father Washington and Father Jefferson, and I'm like, oh, why does
And
Ben?
Benjamin.
Yeah, seeing Ben Franklin in holy robes is he'd appreciate the irony.
Oh yeah, he would.
If you know anything about Benjamin Franklin,
Yep. Oh yeah, I know. I've heard all about those scandals with him and the pleasures he's taken up.
no, it's no secret. He stooped his way through Paris
Yeah.
on behalf of his country. So, but be that as it may, I mean, the game itself is incredible, and I am so looking forward to the upcoming DLC, the Burial at Sea, which takes place. You'll play as Booker and Elizabeth in Rapture during its prime.
Wow, that sounds really good. To actually, I can't wait for that DLC to come out. Then.
Yeah.
Now, Rapture would technically take place after Infinite, right?
Yes,
Yep.
50 years after Infinite.
Wow.
And well, based on what I know about the ending, I'm just trying to think. Did they do a tear or something?
We don't
we
know.
we don't know. All we know is that you're gonna play Booker and Elizabeth in Rapture in its prime, and you get to play as Elizabeth too for a bit. So that in and of itself should be interesting to say the least.
Right.
Incredibly, and you know, and that was one of the things we didn't get in the first two BioShock games. I mean, we played through. I mean, Rapture was a beautiful place, but we already saw it after it had been destroyed through Civil War. Now you get to play in Rapture at its prime, and I'm just like, oh goody.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to definitely see, like, the way that people use all the plasmids and stuff for and how they actually looked before they became like mutated and the downfall. That'll be interesting to see.
Actually, the thing that's probably gonna be the most. Well, what I want to hear somebody's review about it is playing the BioShock Infinite on 1999 mode, if that's still the name of the
Yes, it
ultra hard mode.
Yeah, I tried it for about 5 minutes and said, fuck off.
Yeah.
Because that was always one of those. That's what I understand was one of the reasons why BioShock got pushed back like 2 months from its original date, is they were still developing 1999 mode.
Oh God, I can just imagine how much dedication to that there would be. It's like, and I think I actually read this on the BioShock webpage that said it's basically going to be like for the fact that you gotta fight for every inch of life that you have in 1999 mode. There is gonna be basically is for the hardcore gamers in that sense.
It's essentially to take a cue from Devil May Cry. It's essentially like putting BioShock Infinite on Dante Must Die mode. Granted, I haven't played a Dante Must Die mode. I'm too scared to go anything beyond normal on the Devil May Cry games. As much as I love them, I do have a limit of how much ass I'm willing to get. How much I'm willing to get my ass kicked.
Just a clarification on the upcoming DLC. It's going to take place on New Year's Eve 1958, which is the night that the Rapture Civil War begins.
I was saying, isn't that when like Rapture blew itself up essentially?
That is well, I'm now going to dig into. I don't know if you guys have read the novel, the BioShock prequel novel, which is considered canon. But basically, the Rapture Civil War begins New Year's Eve 1958.
So they don't even give you a chance to enjoy Rapture. They just start throwing you when the Civil War begins.
Basically.
God damn it.
Sounds about right.
But still, it is still several years before you see Rapture fall into pieces. Everything's still...
Fair enough.
So it's not destroyed by that point. I mean, at this point, it's the beginning of the end.
Mm.
So I am looking. I don't always buy DLC, but when I do,
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yep.
When you do, it's not for. Is it for Mass Effect though? I wonder. I'm sorry. I had to go there for a moment.
Yeah, you did. I'm sure you did. And admittedly, the only piece of Mass Effect DLC I bought was the extended ending, and that wasn't that's a freebie.
Right. They pretty much had to make it a freebie considering what happened there.
Okay.
I did, just for
Let me wheedle back to that.
Yeah. Let's turn the car around just for a second here.
Let's go right back up just a
Oh
second,
boy.
because I must be weird, because I played the extended ending and sobbed for about an hour. I'm not kidding. I was in floods of tears when I got to the ending, because I was playing as female Shepherd for the entire way through, and I kept the same love interest. I kept Liara throughout the entire series as my female Shepherd, and the ending I just started bawling. I lost it. And I thought it was an amazing ending. Then I went back on YouTube and took a look at the original endings, and realized that there wasn't a whole lot. I mean, there was some dialogue changes. It explained the ending a little better, but by and large, the ending kind of remained pretty much the same, which made me think that the people who vocalized their extreme discontent, demanding BioWare changed the ending, were people who got a little too attached to their shepherds. Those are the type of gamers who thought, I should relax, guys. It's only a game.
Well, what I've always found funny about that is, they made it fun on the net about this, is that in the beginning, Mass Effect, I guess, was having all this extra DLC or something, and people were saying, we are not going to pay extra money for DLC that you guys aren't even including in the game, or something along those lines. Then you get to the original ending of Mass Effect, of the entire series, and people are like, damn it, we'll give you as much money as you want. Just make the effing DLC. We don't care what you have to do, just make us the DLC.
The only explanation I can give for Mass Effect was that the reason why there was so much fan outrage was not so much that the endings, there you had the option of endings. It was just like the endings themselves seemed to come out of nowhere, because like what you had been led to believe, like all the way up into the very, very end of what the what's the name of the conduit, right? That's the name of the thing you're building in 3.
The Crucible.
Crucible, thank you. Like, even led to believe the Crucible was gonna stop the Reapers, and to us that means, okay, they're gonna blow them up. Well, that's not necessarily what happened.
Depending on your ending.
Yeah, depending upon the ending.
Depending on your ending. I mean, I understand that depending on how you raised your Shepherd, the ending might not fit the character, which is, I can understand that complaint. I mean, I got the sense that the ending was much more geared toward a Paragon Shepherd as opposed to a Renegade Shepherd.
Yeah, I mean, the other issue I have too is the ending surmises one that is based upon one fact in the game that apparently in all the other cycles that had happened. Whereas in Shepard's cycle, they had something similar happen, and we resolved the conflict if you did the right options. Do you know what I'm talking about, Brian?
Yep.
Like, you just prove the theory is false, or the cycle thing is false. Like, you just, if you had done this, I'm not saying people did, but from what I'm understanding, a fair number of people did get that particular style with these two factions. Like, you solved a conflict, and you can't do, it's basically just like, hey, here's our basically baseline theory. We can expand this out fully and protect both humans and synthetics, or whatever the heck
like those kind of ones.
Yeah, they're synthetics. Like, you can protect organic and non-organic life. It's not. That was, I guess, my main complaint against it. Was like the ending surmises one of, like, it's based upon one fact which you just debunked not even 5 hours earlier.
Mm.
Be that as it may, it still remains probably the best trilogy of video games I've ever played.
Oh, I'm not arguing that fact. I'm just like,
Oh yeah, I mean, I can understand where some people might have been displeased, but for the mass, or the outcry, the outpouring of vitriol, and my first thought was, have you guys never played a game with a bad ending, or seen a movie with a horrible ending, or read a book? What are you gonna do? Demand the author change the ending because you don't like it?
You gotta
The
remember
only
too,
example I know of a game having a bad ending, but then, well, I know a little bit about this. I'm gonna keep spoilers to a minimum. I haven't even played the game yet, but I understand a couple things. Is the games of it's not a trilogy. Well, technically it is, but only two of them are tied together. The third one's just off on its own thing. Is the Shadow Hearts series, and from what I understand, there were two possible options for the ending of Shadow Hearts, and Shadow Hearts 2 Covenant is based on the bad ending. So that's the case of, yeah, it does have has a bad ending, but it has a way to go and possibly rectify this bad ending.
yeah, but usually the bad ending, like usually in like that style of game, there's a quote unquote bad ending, which is usually really boils down to main character dies to everybody dies, to the good ending where the main character lives or saves the world, or something like that. It's not like
What happened in Mass Effect, right?
yeah, it's not like what happened in Mass Effect where you have all these options and depending upon what happens, like you can succeed. Like I would say, personally speaking, like if you got the absolute worst ending where you couldn't do, like you were fine with that ending because that was your choice, with the extended DLC where you choose like I forget the best way to describe it, like you have options A, B, and C, and you choose none of the options. Well, that in itself is a choice, which was wasn't addressed originally in the originals,
Yep,
but they
correct.
addressed it in the extended endings. So I'm fine with that because that in itself is the player's choice. Whereas options like A, B, and C didn't make sense with what we knew of the given universe.
That's certainly possible. I mean, there have been games that have had multiple endings, and then later entries in the series use one of those endings as canon, and the other gets disregarded. I mean, Metal Gear Solid 1, for example, did that. You had either Liquid dies or Meryl dies, depending on whether it's either Meryl lives or Meryl dies, depending on if you submitted or resisted the torture in Metal Gear Solid 1. So
Right, and I will fully admit that 90% of these games that give you a couple options, I can only bring myself to go and beat the good ending. I just don't have it in me to go and play the bad ending.
Well, I guess this also is interesting too because this discussion leads to Infamous Second Son, because Infamous Second Son is based upon the good ending in Infamous 2.
Oh yeah, yeah. I know the good ending for that one. Like for both Infamous and Infamous 2, the endings were. It was kind of weird with the endings for me. The reason why in that case for being was because for the first one, with the ending with that one, it comes after like a complete mind f of what happens. And I thought the second one, the ending for that was really confusing, because as you're getting towards the ending for one small part, you're actually shifting sides on that one, like between the good and bad karma. You're actually shifting from what you were before. In order to get the good karma, you gotta do stuff that's with bad karma, and that's towards the ending. So I always thought for some reason it was really weird.
Well, my reasoning for that is saying is the paragon is the belief of good doesn't mean you're doing good. Doing the right thing is a lot more difficult than it sounds.
Yeah, especially with those ones.
Which and for the person who's the quote unquote evil or bad one, for all the intent behind, like all the reasoning and evil that she did. Like when it came down to it, like bad evil doesn't mean, or I forget the exact term, but like good doesn't mean. I'm losing my words here, but like
it's basically you're saying that things are not nearly as black and white as they might seem.
Yeah, especially with like the morality system that they were using in Infamous 2.
Yeah, and I will fully admit that actually Infamous 2 is one of those games that I still have to get around to getting around and buying. Which I'm just gonna go off here for like 2 seconds and just say the problem is that I have such a huge backlog, and there's a bunch of games that I still want to buy. Some of the stuff that's coming out, Dishonored, as my brothers mentioned, which has been out for a while, but I got so many other games I got to beat. The latest Castlevania, Lord of the Shadow for PS3, Batman Arkham City, I haven't even played it yet. And this is on top of the fact that Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag is coming out in October, and I was disappointed with the Assassin's Creed series because of Revelations. Revelations was below me. It wasn't super bad, but it was definitely below mediocre. Although I understand that Assassin's Creed 3 with the new protag kind of fixed things, but Black Flag is looking really good. And another game that just recently got released is in the Tales series, and that's Tales of Xillia, which is, again, they both sound awesome. I want them, but I got so many games that I still have to beat.
Well, if you want to play a game with multiple endings, just play Chrono Trigger. End of story.
Yeah, I was told about this. Funny you should mention that.
12 endings.
There's like 15, actually.
Oh, they must have added some then. I thought it was 12.
There were, 12 endings. Then there's 2 more which are bad, I guess. The quote-unquote bad endings. And then I guess I was told that there's actually a 15th ending as well.
Oh, goody.
Wait, that was. That's right. I'm thinking of the remake that they did for one of the handheld systems.
For DS, they added an ending.
Alrighty, so does anybody else want to have anything else they want to say? Because we are getting near the end here.
Nope.
I think I only got one more game I want to bring up because I haven't played many games this year so far, but I have played a couple and I want
to... Okay, well, we'll close with you then.
Alright. I mentioned my game is Shadowrun Returns. For those who aren't aware, this was a Kickstarter game by... I forget their publisher name. Lower Wikipedia away. But the game itself was... came out... in Steam, never mind. I'm looking so I went. My facts right. The developer's harebrained schemes. It came out for Windows and Microsoft Mac OS July 25th, 2013. It is an isometric tactical role-playing game. It is based in the Shadowrun, or based upon and based in the Shadowrun world, which, for those who aren't aware, is basically cyberpunk, where you have it's cyberpunk with dragons and elves and orcs and dwarves.
Is Shadowrun? Are you talking about the tabletop gaming system?
Yes.
Okay.
The tabletop game, essentially, the rule system, stuff like that. They had a recent release of the game where I liked it because the game itself is not that long, probably 10 hours on the base version, like with the story that the game launched with. But developers have said that they were going to release more stories to support the game, and they included with the game is the software used, or is like a level creation system where you can make your own levels, and like basically open source like software essentially, so that way people who are creative enough and or have a lot of time on their hands can make their own stories and have it and using the same like rules engine and stuff like that the game uses. You can have your own stories played out for user generated content. The game itself looks pretty nice. I mean, for an isometric game, it runs pretty good. Fair bit of combat. There's also a fair bit of dialogue and options like that. It's not so much a morality system that you like in a Mass Effect game or Infamous. It's just more so like different options of like talk where you can like make funny jokes or insult someone or play it straight or just be like someone who's there just for the money. So I mean that's about all I have for the game. So
No.
All right, I think we're ready to wrap this thing up.
I think we are, because we're about to hit the 2-hour mark. So, if you have any questions, comments, anything you'd like to say about this episode or any other episode, or you want to be in a future episode, you can let us know in a number of different ways. You can let us know on Facebook at facebook.com/downloadablecontent. You can go on Twitter at DLContent. You can email us at dlcontent1@gmail.com. And as always, you can find every episode on iTunes, YouTube, and Stitcher. So I think I've pretty much covered all the bases, all the ways you can get downloadable content into your ears. Much, much better and safer than having us in your ears. So.
Oh, yeah.
So, there we go. So, it remains for me to thank Andy and Ryan and Ron for being on this second free play episode. And so, until next time, everyone, have a good one!